Hi everyone. Pakistan's economy can be facing bankruptcy, which is evident from the macroeconomic parameters such as rising inflation and the ever so low levels of foreign reserves. This isn't an overnight phenomenon, rather has been building up since the nation's independence. So today, we shall look at what went wrong with Pakistan, how the nation reached this point of collapse, and what factors were responsible to their economic volatility. To start off, we know that throughout history, an army is raised to protect the nation's border and the citizens who live within those borders. But in Pakistan's case, the army took their definition and objective to be different, and thus has been evolving into a military economy. But what does this mean exactly? People, Pakistan's army has been ruling the country directly or indirectly since the past 7 decades. They have been taking advantage of their authority, have been establishing businesses across Pakistan. And this is why their army is the largest and most profitable business empire in Pakistan. And it's not just the businesses which have helped the army grow into conglomerate, but the real estate too has been filling up their coffers. But the question is, how did the Pakistan military manage to achieve such a feat? Well, all this achieved its obvious peak when during the 1960s, General Ayub Khan started the entitlement culture, in which he started a tradition of awarding land to army officers according to their ranks. This then led to involvement of military officers in commercial ventures, which further turned into establishment of foundations to help retired service personnel. And you know what? The main objective of these foundations was to set up investment in not just all sectors of the domestic economy, rather foreign economies as well, which could not be tracked since they were welfare-generated revenue streams. All this has resulted in the Pakistani military holding 12% of the real estate in Pakistan and a ballpark estimate of more than $1 trillion of economic investments revolving within just the military circles instead of flowing in the economy. And this is the first channel with which Pakistan's army is breaking the backbone of its economy. In Pakistan, military's control and influence has been both discrete and open at the same time, in holding and swaying the elections, choosing the supposed democratic leaders, and passing out judgments on the performance of these elected leaders. This is why Pakistan has been witnessing a long-standing history of military coups, assassinations, and exiles. To illustrate this more clearly, Pakistan's first president, Iskandar Mirza, was a military general who was dismissed by his very own chosen army commander-in-chief Ayub Khan in 1958. Then, in 1977, General Zia dissolved the parliament and placed the nation's first democratically chosen prime minister under house arrest. So you see the pattern here. Every ruler and commander-in-chief is just trying to overthrow the current leader in internal battles of power struggle. By the way, Pakistan's favorite Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan, was also ousted and dismissed of his position owing to the military's influential pressure, since Mr. Khan tried his hands at an attempt to replace the Army Chief General. This presents yet another victory for political instability in the debt-ridden nation, and is the second channel with which the military is bringing the economic doom. People, if you would look very closely, it was the politicians of Pakistan who actually paved the way for military rule itself. Post-independence, when Gandhians like J.B. Kripalani were introducing lowering of military expenditure, Pakistan, on the contrary, was highlighting the significance of a strong army on account of the security threat from India. And this focus on military expenditure has been eroding Pakistan's budget and economy in 3 different ways. Just in the first decade of independence itself, Pakistan's spending on defense had been more than 60% of their national budget. This situation with time has only gotten worse, with Pakistan allocating more than 4% of their total GDP towards defense budget, whereas countries like India contribute only about 2%. This results into an immense amount of money flowing into the country's military expenditure, eroding the wealth in the name of security and competency. But the question over here is, why nobody questions these unnecessary allocations? Well, when inquired about the high budget allocations, Pakistan as usual states that in order to compete sufficiently with India, who allocates more than $50 billion in defense budget, they require a big fat defense budget as well. But if we dissect this logically, this comparison makes no sense at all, because the reason India has such high defense budget is its $2 trillion economy, whereas Pakistan's economy is just more than $300 million in GDP. So scales for comparison here are totally unsubstantiated. Secondly, Pakistan's defense budget does not even cover the pensions of the military personnel. This is because pensions for military are also a part of the civilian pension fund. And if we look at the distribution of this fund, 80% of the total pension fund is distributed amongst the military personnel, whereas the remaining 20% is for the civil pension funds, which includes all the government sectors such as health, civil servants, etc. Even the funds for the nuclear programs, which is unarguably a country's most expensive defense program, is also taken out of the nation's development funds, meant for sectors such as education, infrastructure, and even the COVID-19 relief packages. As a result, the money which should have been used for the development of the nation is being routed towards military expenditures. And thirdly, whatever capital goes to the military, hardly any of it flows back into the economy because of the tax evasions. And two major ways in which this happens are either through the welfare subsidiaries, which invest in huge commercial ventures, or by bullying the questioning players of the system. As a result, the wealth of the military is always protected without paying back anything to the society, without being answerable to anyone. Corruption in Pakistan has been rampant since independence because crime and official accountability, although are meant to be facing severe punishment, but this happens only on paper. This is because the military has been responsible of establishing hollow, meaningless national departments and bureaus like the National Accountability Bureau, which is the main anti-corruption agency of the nation, which the military controls to bend the rules according to their own whims and fancies and have total control to excuse fraudulent activities. This is clearly visible when you pay attention to the fact that not even a single commander-in-chief of Pakistan's army has been dismissed or convicted on the grounds of corruption, whereas there are multiple examples of prime ministers like Benazir Bhutto, Nawaz Sharif and others being expelled from office on account of corruption. All this brings us to the second biggest factor which has brought Pakistan to the economic doom: the freelancing of terrorism. As we discussed earlier, that Pakistan's military has always backed all their actions with one argument, that they need to protect their nation from security threat from other nations. But in actuality, their actions have been clear evidence that they are the ones who happen to be the threat to the world. The terrorism model of Pakistan has all along been of a freelancer. To understand this first, let's understand the three main characteristics of a freelancer. Number one, a freelancer is mainly driven by the nature of being independent and being their own boss. Secondly, they always believe in the level of skills they are offering to the clients. And lastly, the monetary scope is far too lucrative once you become an established freelancer. Now, if you match the terrorism model to these characteristics, they are very similar. Pakistan played a pivotal role in assisting the US in the war in Afghanistan against the Soviet invasion. This established their belief and model where Pakistan found its strength and skills in breeding, training and nurturing of better breed of terrorists for their client America and their own causes. But on the other hand, they were also busy with the terror situation in Jammu and Kashmir, where they were fighting in collaboration with a secular group of rebels who were only seeking freedom instead of jihad. This resulted in the rise to their need to be independent and not collaborate or answer to other rebel groups with different ideologies. And because of this, they were constantly in search of more like-minded breed of terrorists. Now, since Pakistan knew they had established themselves as the go-to freelancers of terrorism, this ultimately helped them in revenue generation in the form of aids given to them and more than $20 billion of funding flowing in. But their short-sightedness failed to see the weapons smuggling, drugs abuse, militant upbringings, which were all running rampant, which ultimately led to their home environments falling under the shadow of their freelancing terrorism abilities, resulting into Pakistan's streets running free with weapons, ammunition, raising more negative sentiments and repeating the never-ending jihad advocation cycle. This is how Pakistan choked their own economy with the help of the terrorism freelancing model. And this, in addition to the first factor of military's role in the economy, Pakistan has seen itself always a debt-ridden country, with the IMF already giving out loans to them on 22 occasions. The nation's money bleeding issue and the economic choking slowly gave rise to scenarios where they had to take loans to repay previous loans, and this resulted in their best friend China stepping in to save them. China offered to grant huge loans to Pakistan in exchange for the development of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a part of China's Belt and Road Initiative strategy to have a dominant hand over the whole of South Asia. This has resulted in China's stake in Pakistan debt growing from 9% in 2013 to almost 30% in 2021. And because of this, China's ability to exert influence on Pakistan's economy has grown substantially. But the question over here is, how did China manage to do this just with shelling out loans? Well, this is a three-step process. Step 1. The loans which China offers to Pakistan are short duration, high interest loans with interest rates ranging from 4 to 5% as compared to the global standard of 1 to 2%. This creates a huge debt burden just from the interest payoffs, let alone the principal, and as a result increasing the debt trap even further. Step 2. Taking the assets of the nation under their own ambit with a leasing model on account of inability of Pakistan to repay their loans. For example, Pakistan has given their Gwadar port on lease to China for 40 years, which will as a result let China use the port to their own geopolitical advantages. Step 3. Mining of natural resources and depleting the state government of assets. This is evident from China's aggressive mining of gold and copper in the Balochistan province, because China got the resource-rich regions on lease for delivering missiles to Pakistan back in the 90s. As a result, the Balochistan region has been in a never-ending battle with the Pakistan government for robbing it of its resources and monetary benefits. So in a nutshell, Pakistan needs to identify and segregate the military's role from its political and defense domains and allow the democratic identities to play the corrective role. But this first needs attention and eradication of the supposed terrorism business model, because of which the development initiatives could play a bigger role and form a bigger part of the economic pie. As a result, Pakistan will be able to improve on their trades and get the leverage to become independent from the debt mountain so developed. I know this is not easy as it sounds, but it has to start off somewhere to make a difference. That's all for today, folks. If you like the content, please hit the like button below and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you all in the next episode. Mindfulness signing off.